Deep beneath the baked dirt of modern-day Pakistan, a secret lay hidden for thousands of years. Imagine walking through a vast, silent desert, completely unaware that a massive, ancient super-city rests right under your boots. Over 4,000 years ago, while other famous empires were just learning how to build simple towns, an unbelievable metropolis was already thriving here. It was a place of roaring trade, busy streets, and brilliant minds. But when archaeologists finally dug it up, they were left completely stunned. Everything they found here flips the script on what we thought we knew about the ancient world, making this topic one of the greatest puzzles in human history. This sprawling maze of red bricks is called Mohenjo-Daro. Stepping into its uncovered streets feels like walking onto an alien planet that somehow perfectly mirrors our own. The city was not just a random jumble of houses piled on top of each other over time. Instead, it was laid out in a massive, flawless grid. The main streets were perfectly straight, crossing each other at exact right angles. It looks exactly like the map of a modern downtown city, dropped right into the ancient past. Every single neighborhood was built with incredible care. The people who lived here were master engineers who obsessed over perfection. They used millions of baked mud bricks to construct their homes, and every single brick was made to the exact same standard size. The ratio of their bricks was always 4 to 2 to 1, no matter where you looked. This level of community planning is totally shocking for a society this old. They did not just build shelters to survive the elements. They built a highly organized machine for living. Their mastery of building went far beyond just making bricks. They understood how to keep their homes cool in the blistering desert heat. Houses were built with thick walls and very few windows on the outside, keeping the harsh sun away. Instead, rooms opened up into private, shaded courtyards. It was an ancient form of air conditioning, allowing the people inside to relax in comfort while the world outside baked in the sun. The most mind-blowing part of this city is hidden just beneath the street level. These ancient people invented the world's first urban sanitation system. Thousands of years before the Romans built their famous public baths, the people of Mohenjo-Daro had working toilets inside their own homes. Clean water flowed in from deep, circular brick wells, and dirty water flowed out through covered drains, running safely under the streets. Think about how wild that is for a moment. While most of the world's population was still drinking from muddy streams and living in simple huts, these people were taking hot baths in private brick washrooms. They cared deeply about cleanliness, order, and public health. The sound of running water must have echoed through the alleyways, a soothing background noise to a busy, bustling city. Manhole covers were even placed along the streets so city workers could clear out the pipes. At the very center of the city sits a massive, watertight pool known today as the Great Bath. It was built with perfectly fitted bricks and sealed with natural tar to keep the water from leaking out. Wide staircases lead down into the pool, suggesting it was used for important public rituals. But unlike massive temples in other parts of the world, this grand structure was open to the sky and focused entirely on water. It was a monument to purity rather than power. But the deep mystery of this place is not just about the brilliant things we found. The real puzzle is what is completely missing from the dirt. When we look at other ancient empires like Egypt or Mesopotamia, we always see the exact same things. We see giant royal tombs, massive statues of angry rulers, and huge palaces filled with sparkling gold. We see dramatic pictures of great battles and huge crowds of slaves building pyramids. Here, in the Indus Valley, none of that exists. Archaeologists have searched high and low across the massive ruins. They have sifted through tons of dirt, rock, and sand. Yet, they have never found a single palace. They have never found a giant monument built to honor a powerful ruler. There are no grand tombs filled with treasures to help a rich leader in the afterlife. The houses are mostly the same size, suggesting everyone lived on a fairly equal level. Even stranger, there are almost no weapons. In most ancient ruins, scientists find thousands of sharp swords, heavy spears, and smashed shields. They find walls built incredibly thick and high to keep out invading armies. But in this vast super-city, the signs of warfare are practically zero. They found a few simple knives, but nothing meant for massive battles. It is as if they lived in total peace for hundreds and hundreds of years. This changes everything we believe about how human beings organize themselves. We usually think a great civilization needs a scary boss at the top to make things work. We assume you need kings and wars to force people to build giant cities and follow the rules. But Mohenjo-Daro defines a totally different way of living. It shows us an ancient world shifting its focus away from royal power and toward the common good. Instead of finding weapons of war, diggers found something much more beautiful. They found toys. Hidden in the dust were tiny clay carts with spinning wheels, perfect for a child to pull along the brick floors. They found whistles shaped like little birds and mechanical clay animals whose heads would move when you pulled a string. They even found early versions of dice and board games. A society that spends its time making intricate toys for its children is a society that feels incredibly safe. To understand who these peaceful people were, scientists look at the tiny clues left behind. The most famous objects found here are small, flat squares made of stone. These are called stamp seals, and they are roughly the size of a modern postage stamp. They are carved with beautiful, highly detailed pictures of animals like powerful elephants, striped tigers, and even mythical unicorns. These seals were likely used like ancient identification cards or brand logos for wealthy merchants. What makes these tiny carvings even more bizarre is where they end up. These exact same seals have been found thousands of miles away, buried in the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia. This means brave sailors from the Indus Valley were loading up wooden boats and crossing the dangerous ocean to do business with other empires. They were global travelers long before the invention of the compass or modern maps. Picture a loud, crowded port in a distant desert kingdom. Giant wooden ships with massive cloth sails creak against the docks. Out of these ships step men carrying heavy bundles wrapped in soft cotton. They unload shining gold, bright blue stones, and rare woods that smell sweet and spicy. Tucked inside these bundles are the tiny stone stamp seals. They survive the harsh desert sun and the salty sea air, perfectly preserving the beautiful animal carvings. Imagine the absolute shock of a mighty, warlike king. He is used to ruling by fear, surrounded by angry warriors and sharp bronze swords. Suddenly, he holds a tiny, magical stone square from a land he cannot even picture. A land where people do not build war chariots, but instead carve perfect little unicorns and gentle elephants. It must have felt like holding a piece of an alien world. The sheer mystery of this peaceful, wealthy place completely baffled the ancient rulers. This incredible global trade brought massive riches back home. The merchants of Mohenjo-Daro became the ancient world's ultimate business masters. They did not need weapons to conquer the globe. They used brilliant ideas and fair deals. The tiny stone seals were their absolute best tool. When a merchant finished packing a bundle of expensive goods, they would smear a chunk of wet clay over the tying rope. Then they pressed their special stone seal hard into the mud. When they pulled the stone away, it left a perfect, raised picture of a tiger or an elephant. But the animal was only half of the message. To truly claim their goods, the merchant needed something else. Above these carved animals, there are strange symbols. This is the Indus Valley writing system. It is a series of mysterious shapes, tiny lines, and geometric patterns. For over a century, the smartest minds in the world have tried to read this writing. They have used supercomputers, advanced math, and endless pattern matching to try and crack the code. Yet, nobody can read a single word of it. The language remains completely silent. We do not know what they actually called their own city. We do not know the names of their children, their gods, or their heroes. The symbols stare back at us, holding on to secrets that we might never unlock. This undeciphered script is one of the most frustrating and fascinating puzzles in all of human history. Even without their written words, their actions speak volumes across the land. This city was not alone in the desert. It was part of a massive network that stretched across thousands of miles of rough terrain. There were over 1,000 other towns and cities just like it, scattered across the ancient river valleys. Together, they formed a massive trading empire that reached all the way to the distant Middle East. They were the ultimate merchants of the ancient world. They traded brightly colored beads, precious seashells, and strong cotton cloth. To make sure nobody was ever cheated, they used highly accurate stone weights. These little stone cubes were perfectly carved to exact mathematical measurements. You could travel to a bustling town 500 miles away, and the bricks, the drains, and the market weights would all be exactly the same. Imagine the unbelievable level of teamwork required to pull that off. Millions of people spread across a massive and wild landscape, all agreeing to follow the exact same rules without a giant army forcing them to do it. It feels like a beautiful, impossible dream. They were connected not by the terrifying fear of a king, but by a shared belief in order, fair trade, and peaceful community. But this peaceful, perfect world did not last forever. Around 3,900 years ago, something started to go terribly wrong. The bustling streets began to slowly empty out. The perfect brick drains, once a point of massive pride, clogged with mud and were never cleaned. The great trading ships stopped sailing down the mighty river. The city was dying, but not from an attack. The real killer was not an invading army with flaming arrows. It was something much bigger, much slower, and much harder to fight. The climate itself began to drastically change. The mighty rivers that fed their crops started to dry up or violently change their course. The regular summer rains that watered their massive fields simply stopped coming. Without predictable water, the massive farms quickly failed. Without mountains of food, the great cities could not survive. The people were forced to pack up whatever they could carry and leave their beautiful brick homes behind. They scattered into smaller, simpler villages, moving slowly eastward toward the mountains where fresh water was still flowing. The grand supercity was completely abandoned to the wind and the sand. Slowly, over centuries, dry dirt blew through the empty streets. The heavy wooden roofs caved in. The perfectly straight walls crumbled into piles of dust. The earth swallowed Mohenjo-Daro whole, hiding its brilliant engineering and its peaceful ways in total darkness. For thousands of years, humanity completely forgot about them. We wrote massive history books filled with tales of violent empires, believing that was the only way societies could ever grow. We celebrated the ruthless conquerors, the mighty pharaohs, and the fierce emperors. We assumed the story of human progress was always written in blood and forced labor. Then the sand shifted. When Mohenjo-Daro was finally pulled back into the light, it offered us a powerful, earth-shattering lesson. It proved that a massive, highly successful civilization could thrive on cooperation instead of violent conquest. It showed us that humans can build absolute wonders without enslaving each other to do it. The sheer reality of their survival forces us to rethink what humanity is truly capable of. The silent red bricks of the Indus Valley still have so much to teach us today. We may never know their true names or read their ancient stories, but their empty streets, their clever toys, and their perfect drains leave behind a towering legacy. They are the ultimate proof that the ancient world was far more complex, peaceful, and mysterious than we ever dared to imagine.